I said, John, I appreciate you for being here today.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
Welcome, John.
yeah, it's awesome. Hey, Jesus, you got your mic away from your face. You usually have it really close. There you go. so, so John,
I don't know. I thought the mic would follow me around, but it doesn't. I mean, I don't think we reached that time in the future yet. Where the mic will be following you around.
That will come with time.
yeah, definitely with time. Yeah, they already got cameras that follow you, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they have the little drones now. That will travel around
Uh-huh.
and everything like that. I'm still waiting for them to have the holograms, like in Total Recall, where I remember in Total Recall where the holograms would talk to you, or people would be in the holograms and they teach you how to play golf and all that stuff. And I still haven't seen that. I mean, there's some similar things like that. They have that one AI where it looks so real and it's like in a window. Have you seen that one where it's like a rectangle window and the AI is in it or the person's in it and they look so real and they look so 3D-ish? Have you seen that yet?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
we've
so
seen it.
amazing.
I've seen it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I said, John, I appreciate you for being here. I when I first seen or came to your page, it said author. So like I told you earlier, I like to support authors. But then I seen decoding Bible messages, and you told me you wrote it 10 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about it? Like what's the book about?
Okay. The basic thesis of the book is it's not totally new. There have been books written about the subject before, but they're not very many. But the thesis is the Old Testament has encoded in it prophetic portraits of Christ that were written 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 years before he even was born and walked the earth. But you have to
Wow.
understand the template of how it works. It's like a pattern recognition exercise. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. For example, in the case of Isaac, the son of Abraham, he had a supernatural birth because his mom was elderly. There was an angelic visitation to the parents. There was a prenatal naming. So he was, in his birth, the circumstances of his birth resembled the circumstances of Jesus's conception and birth. And then on his near sacrifice, he was led up a hill carrying a wooden burden, and he was to be lain on wood and pierced and slain as a sacrifice. And that's exactly what Jesus went through. So there's all kinds of these prophetic portraits tucked away in the Bible, and many Bible characters of the Old Testament have these.
Okay. Which one is your favorite?
I guess the Isaac one would be one of my favorites because obviously that's the example I cited first. Also, Joseph, who was sold into slavery in Egypt, he's a very impressive one. Um, and there's many others as well.
Mhm. Okay. You know, I I started this whole journey because of religion, because I grew up in the Catholic Church and I wanted to know who God was. And it kind of made me wanted to know everything about it as much as I could possibly. Are you a religious person? Do you go to church, regularly and stuff like that? Christian, Catholic?
I'm Christian and
Mhm.
Protestant, but I
That's-
like Catholics. I like many Catholic theologians. I'm a fan of
yeah.
Thomas Aquinas. So I'm really more interested in what unites us rather than what
Okay.
divides us by denomination.
I like that. I
And
like that because I like that because there is a lot of there is a lot of that in the Christian or monotheistic religion, Abrahamic faith religions, and I when I told you that I started this because of my journey through religion, um I grew up Catholic, and my mom's German, and my father's Black, African American, and he grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and my mom grew up in the Catholic Church. And but my father would do all the traditions that my mother would do, and I'm not sure. I don't remember, recalling doing anything that he wanted us to do. But like, if my mom didn't want us to eat on Good Friday, eat meat for Good Friday and stuff like that, he would follow suit with that. And
Mm,
because they were together, that they weren't divided in the household of their religion. They just became one with it, and
that's
they
good.
believed that one God basically. And but as I got older, I realized that some people do have some of that um divide between them because of their faiths and their beliefs. Have you witnessed that yourself?
Yes, I've witnessed it myself. Now, in my own family, my wife and I are quite compatible. And in our community, we have a diversity of religious beliefs, but we have a good community, a great neighborhood that I live in. And we have an HOA that actually works, which is a rarity.
You heard it today, guys. HOA that actually works.
But we are a good cohesive community, and we share our faith at the right time with each other, and it just works. And when people are looking for areas of agreement instead of looking at how to divide each other, everything really just works better.
Mhm. That's right. Yeah, that goes into what you used to do as you say used to be you're a retired system analyst and programmer. So that right there, to be a programmer, everything has to go together
Oh
perfectly,
yeah.
right? That's a
Oh
perfect
yeah.
example, right? You'll get a glitch here and there if it's not perfect, right? And you don't want to have a
Right.
glitch in an aircraft that's like 30, 40, 50,000 feet in the sky, or something like that.
uh,
So yeah, that's
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 art
very
imitating life.
so that seems like it's always been part of your life, though. Like since you've probably been born, that everything had to go together, and you
Yeah.
surrounded yourself around stuff like that as much as
Yeah,
possible, at least,
as
right?
much as possible. Yes.
Yeah. And do you remember the hard times? Would you like to talk about any of the hard times? Like, do you remember any of the hard times that said, "Hey, if I could tell somebody out there, like give somebody some advice or something like that."
Well, I guess one of the struggles I had was finding a wife, because I wasn't married until I was 33. So here I
Mm-hmm.
was in my 20s, not knowing how or if I would be married,
Mm-hmm.
and I would try to date people, and it just wouldn't work out. And then I finally gave up. And when I finally gave up, guess what happened? I met my wife.
Mm-hmm. So
So
you let it just
sometimes,
happen, right?
yeah, it just happens. You just have to trust God with these things.
That's where I was going to go with, was that you had to put your faith in God.
Yes.
So that's a good example. Yeah. So what made you write this book, though? What made you come out and just said, "Hey, I gotta put this in a book"?
Okay. Well, when I was in my mid 20s, I had a brief flirtation with an organization that I later learned was a cult.
Mm.
And so I ended up having a deeper faith as a result, but also having confusion. So I had to work through a lot of things. I had to figure out what was right and what was not right. In the course of this experience, this encounter, I ran into some old books that talked about Christ foreshadowed in the Old Testament. And I'd
Okay.
never been taught that when I was a kid and growing up in church and Sunday school. It was like totally new to me, and it blew my mind. So I started gathering all these types and shadows, as they're called, and accumulating them. And I actually wrote the first draft of my book in the mid 1980s on an IBM dual floppy PC. And then I just carried it around with me. And when I upgraded my computer, I would move the manuscript. Then finally, when I retired, I finished it. This was in 2015, and I was able to get it published. But actually, it's been like 30 years in the works, even
Wow.
before it
It
was
lasted that
published.
long.
Yeah. I had a very enduring sense that I had to write that book. I could not write it. And so
And
I
were
felt it was
were you
important.
afraid to write it, or was it something that you felt like humanity wasn't ready for it yet, or you didn't feel that you were ready for it yet?
Partly it was me not being ready. And then also, not long after I finished the manuscript, I met my future wife and we started a family. And I was deep into raising the family and in my career. And I just didn't really have time to devote to it. But I never forgot that vision I had for it and the sense of purpose I had. So as soon as I retired and had blocks of time available, I went ahead and got it done.
Mhm. So, is there something in your life, like when you were younger, that affected you in some way? Like, did that vision, like, connect in some way, from a previous time period that really brought you closer to God?
Um, when I was young, I was raised in the church, but I did not feel like I had a personal relationship with God, with Jesus, until early adulthood. And the reason for that is I think I was in a mainline denomination, and it was the Presbyterian Church, and they believe in predestination, and so they weren't much into evangelism. So it was just like they just assumed that everybody was there was chosen by God and they were good and they didn't have to do anything but rely on God. When in actuality, I later determined that one really does need to make a decision. There
Hmm.
has to be a time when you say, okay, God, my life is in your hands. I believe in you, uh, and I trust you to guide me. And so it was when I visited a different church where they had an altar call. That's when I really began to live the Christian faith in earnest, because there was an actual point in time when I made a decision. And so
Mm.
after making that decision, I felt like I had to make good on it.
Hmm.
So I got more serious about my faith then. And that was early adulthood.
Mm. That's interesting. Very interesting.
Is it
So,
is there like certain things like with your job
yeah.
in the past, like with the government and things like that, that has made you think about God more so, or what you have come across with in life that has, stopped you from putting the book out, or if you know what I'm talking about, like you've had that manuscript for a while now, you've worked with the government, and then all of a sudden, did that hold you back?
The only thing really holding me back was that I felt like the book needed to be an excellent book. No haste. I needed a solid block of time to devote to it and actually fuss over it and make it as perfect as I could. And it's only 120 pages long. You can have quality or you can have quantity. I aimed for quality, and I just didn't have the time to do what I needed to do to get it right until I was retired because
You
of
know
having
that
kids and family and career and so on.
that's I like how you put that. Quality over quantity, because a lot of people don't understand that. They believe that just because there's a book, the books thick. And I love reading books. I have a lot of books. They think that it's full of great information, but reality is, it really isn't. A lot of it could be a lot of fluff and just
Oh yeah.
gibberish and stuff. Yeah, I know that. I like it when somebody just gets to the point, because they can drag on, and we all drag on, of course. But the point is that when it comes up to books, a lot of people, and I don't know if I do it more than others, but I'm always wondering when I'm getting into the next chapter, because I want to know more and more and more and more. And then, when I get halfway through the book, my mind is already starting to wonder what I've remembered in previously. And I wanted to ask you this. I know you've read the Bible multiple times, and your job required a lot of science. How did you separate your science ideas and theories from, religion? Because a
Yeah,
lot of people have a hard time with that.
that's been a key question for me. It's one that I've grappled with all my life. But what I've come to realize is that if you delve deeply into science, the deeper you go, the more compatible with Christianity it becomes. And that's
Mhm.
surprising to some people. But you have to know how to reconcile the two. For example, uh, do I believe that the earth was really created in 7 literal days? No, actually, I don't. I'm an old world guy. I think the world is billions of years old. But if you look at Genesis as an allegory, those first three
Mm.
chapters, instead of trying to take it literally and shoehorn it into science, it actually becomes more profound uh, and revealing and informative, not less so.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100% with you on that, because I've read multiple different versions. Like I said, I grew up Catholic, so I read the 73 books, and then, the Protestant, from on my father's side. Well, not too much on my father's side, but, they follow the same 66 books, the Baptist Christians. So, I've read both sides. I've read the Apocrypha, the forbidden books, the Book of Enoch, and everything like that. And one thing that I learned is it's not they didn't want the books inside, all the books inside. They just wanted mostly the important ones to them, for the most part. Because it's really impossible to put all the books into, the Bible. And there was certain denominations worshiped certain things, that was pertaining to God. And you know I
It's
think that's
also it's education too, because not
Oh, yeah.
everybody was educated back then
yeah, and that's
Well,
another
to
thing,
understand
exactly.
that.
for what it's worth, even though I'm a Protestant, I've read the book of Second Maccabees in the Apocrypha. I did
Huh.
so because I was interested in what happened between
How
the.
did you get through that?
I just wanted to know, hey, what happened between 400 BC and the birth of Christ? And that
Mhm.
helped fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, that it's okay to know that information. I think, and I don't want to sound rude about this, but I believe some people take it to the extent where they're extremists, and then that's where it starts getting out of hand. And I
Yeah.
hope I'm using the right word for it. But they take it to the extreme part, and they believe that, no, if it's not in here, then we won't even consider even reading about it. And I think that
Yeah.
takes away from knowing who Jesus is, because there's the 66 books don't always have everything about Jesus in there, even though they don't believe, depending on who you talk to, where the information came from. But one of the arguments about the Bible in the first place is who wrote the Bible, right? So,
Yes.
we're arguing with different things at different times, and I think it's just, for me, it's important to understand everything. Like, when one of the main reasons why I read the books of Enoch was because of the fact that Enoch was mentioned in the Bible, and I was like, I wanted to know more about this character.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's when I found out that he has his own set of books. Then I got to
Mhm.
read that, and then I got to understand it from that perspective. And then the Gospel of Thomas, also, that's not always in every single Bible. Reading about that was pretty interesting. So one thing that I've learned is that there's always arguments about who Jesus was, for one, and then, the skin color and what he looked like. But you hardly ever hear anybody argue about the good that he has done. Like, this man, or whoever, what people want to believe who he was, this God or God man or whatever makes people feel good about themselves. This individual did nothing but try to help people.
Yeah.
And he tried to cure people, guide people. He there's nothing that you can say that he didn't try to learn anything. Like, he tried to learn everything he possibly could from different cultures, religions, beliefs from different people, and he tried to bring everybody together. Something like how you just described earlier about how everything has to go together and work together and stuff. This is what Jesus did, and he didn't have any kind of hate or um, prejudice or anything in his blood or body or soul or skin or anything. And but the thing is he people argue about his skin color and what he if he's a real man or not. Even if you don't believe for whatever reason in Jesus Christ, that's okay. You have that right to believe that and God gave us free will, but you
Right.
cannot deny the fact that Jesus Christ is nothing but is is an example of good.
Oh
So
yeah.
you can't deny that. You can deny the physical aspect and idea of the person, but you can't deny the good because that good was there all the time.
I don't know about the Father, though. I mean, there's a lot of killing in that Bible. A lot of death and destruction in the Old Testament. I know Jesus was good, but I don't know. The Father
Yeah,
was.
and that's another question that I wanted to ask you. With the Old Testament and the New Testament, I've read the Old Testament. There is a lot of deaths in there, and there's a lot of things in there that a lot of people would consider that to be negative on, and that's why they don't believe in God in the first place, right?
Hmm.
And from what I understand, uh, it's a learning curve. You come to learn things, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I wanted to see your understanding of how do you understand the Old Testament and the New Testament. Do you think it should be one Bible or one book, or should it be two different books, like two separate?
It's one very tightly integrated book, and what ties it together is Jesus Christ. Now, as far as the problem of evil in the Old Testament, I think you have to start with the understanding that the whole human race is a hot mess. We are just savage people by nature. Uh, Look at what's going on with the chimpanzees in Uganda. There's actually a civil war in
Yeah, I seen
Uganda
that.
of chimpanzees. So, and frankly, why not early humans doing the same thing?
Right.
Uh, so, so we're a hot mess. It's like the fall of man, the doctrine of the fall. That's the one uh, monotheistic Judeo-Christian doctrine that's empirically obvious. Nobody can refute it because it's just totally obvious. So we start from a position of utter savagery, and
Mm-hmm.
people had no conception of compassion. It was just get all they can while they can. So, and the Old Testament, it does both description and prescription. Prescription means here's what you ought to do. This is how it ought to be. Description is just matter of fact. This is what happened, good, bad, or ugly. It's like the Old Testament is the ultimate reality show. It just reports what happened, good,
Mm-hmm.
bad, or ugly. And there's a lot of ugly.
And yeah, and that, when you said the beginning of man and the savagery and all that other stuff, that's what I was talking about. Learning that humans had to learn to
Yeah,
be
we
better
had to
people,
learn
and
this.
God gave men, women free will.
Yeah,
So he
exactly.
didn't, and I mean, it's it's kind of hard to understand free will because a lot of people would say, well, wouldn't you want to save somebody if you could? And free will, before you can save somebody, I look at it as they have to want to be saved first. So
Yes,
they
yeah,
have to have the free will to do it themselves. You can say, hey, go to rehab or stop drinking and indulging in this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth.
mhm.
And you can do everything you possibly can to try to keep them to do that. But unless they have the free will to want to do it themselves and dig deep and look within themselves, which Jesus has taught many people, plenty of times in the Bible, look within yourself. Sometimes you got to look within yourself to make
Yeah,
changes, um, then, you know, it starts with the person that's standing on their own 2 feet or able to, standing on their, or sitting down, because some people can't stand up, of course.
Mhm.
But I mean, you get the idea that
Well,
it's all
Jesus
about,
healed them.
yeah, but it's all about,
Yeah.
the bringing the idea uh, to the fact that as long as you try yourself, Jesus
Just
is,
believe.
yeah, believe. That's basically, yeah, the easiest word to put it. Just believe. And
Yeah.
that's really hard for a lot of people. Um, and some people have been in some really dark places where that's hard for them. Um, like I said, my journey started this because of religion, but then when I got wounded in Afghanistan, I wanted to know more about God because I had an out of body experience. I had what I thought felt like an out of body experience, and I was technically dead in the military, in Afghanistan for about 30 seconds. So I had my own little reasons why I wanted to do things and why I wanted to know who was what. And when I was growing up, I always found out that, there were multiple religions and each religion had their own God. But then I was kind of confused on, the monotheistic, henotheistic religion and polytheism types of religions, stuff like that. But then I got into the idea that when I started looking more into these religions and looking in even to, it's even interesting that I'm saying this, but even the UFO excitement that's going on, there's the belief in one God. I've been reading these books from Dolores Cannon for a while right now, and she was a past life regression individual, and she did hypnotist on people, trying to help people with lifelong problems of all sorts, right? And a lot of people consider what she does to be more UFO extraterrestrial type like stuff. And even in the books, they use the word God and God, capital G, meaning that even these extraterrestrials believed in one God.
Yeah.
So no matter what I've read, it always led to one supreme deity, one supreme being, one supreme God. And that's very fascinating to me because the way we're divided today on just religion, every single one of them point to one.
Yeah.
And until we come together, we probably all won't even really realize that. But the small group of individuals that do realize that are having these types of conversations and honestly having honest feelings about what they believe in, because I feel like some people just say they believe things just because they believe, because other people believe it, and they're going with being a follower, following what the trend is, and they don't have their own experiences. But when you have your own experience, you tend to feel it and understand it when somebody else says it. You know what I mean? Like how they had
Yeah.
their little journey.
There's a saying that a man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument.
I like that.
Hmm.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, it's I've been down the road or two with
Yeah.
this stuff, and I've been looking at some of your stuff. You're also into a lot of American history. They're like the beginning of American history, like
Yes.
the
What fascinates me about American history is that we really, really created something unique here in America. Our founding fathers
Yep.
actually took an operating, they invented an operating system is what they did. And coming from a computer background, that's a natural analogy for me. But these English settlers who they were an ethnic group and they had a cultural identity, but they turned out to be just like a bootloader for a total operating system that could accommodate all kinds of people and cultures as long as they were just willing to subscribe to the operating system. And the operating system is based on the fact that God created us. He gave us dignity and he gave us inalienable rights that no one can justly take from us. And he gave us certain principles with which to form a government. God did, and then the founders grasped it and put it into practice. The Declaration of Independence is the one that is the thing that outlined how it should be, and then the Constitution is what implemented it. And so what we have with the Constitution, it's a full-blown operating system based on inalienable rights, the rule of law, and it doesn't matter where you come from or what color you are. Anyone that can live with our system and support it is welcome and can be a patriotic American.
So I have this upcoming discussion with somebody. We're putting all the pieces together, and one of the questions that I had, and I want to ask you this question: how do you go about picking the right church?
Well, there is what you believe in and how the church aligns with it, but I think even more important is, what are the people like? If the people are a loving group of people, a welcoming group, then that's like 3/4 of the solution right there. But if they're clannish and they're closed-minded, then that's a red flag that should probably warn you off of that. So even before we get into doctrinal differences and denominational differences, I think what the
That's
people like.
that's a deeper problem right there if they're close-minded.
Jesus said, "You will know them by their fruits." So you look at the fruits. What are the fruits that people are bearing in any given church, and then you can know whether it's a good church or not, and by extension, whether it's for you, perhaps.
Yeah. I was going to ask you something. I've noticed that you worked for Lockheed Martin,
Yeah.
and I know that there's, and I'm not sure. I'm just shooting in the dark here, but I know right now we're having this whole UFO disclosure stuff or anything like that. And I know everything is compartmentalized. And by any chance, did you ever feel like you were working on something that is out of this world, kind of? Do you have anything to say about that at all?
Well, it is compartmentalized, like you said, and I wasn't involved in any of that stuff. It might have been going on in what they call the skunk works out in California, but that wasn't the division that I was with.
Okay.
But fair question.
I had to ask, because it's a big deal right now, and it's part of our podcast as well, especially with scientists missing and things like that. It's kind of crazy going on right now.
It's pretty crazy. Some crazy stuff is going on.
Yeah. I'm sure you have your ear to the ground and watching and listening about all this stuff as well, because you have friends in this field too.
Yeah.
So I do apologize and my condolences if you've lost somebody. So
no, I have not, fortunately.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you that leads up to my next question. How does, because what your job was, what you did personally and for a living, your faith in God and your belief in Jesus Christ, and what was just said about the UFOs and the extraterrestrials and stuff like that. How does that all play into with your belief? Like, do you believe in extraterrestrial aliens?
Well, there are possibilities, but I'm not at all certain.
Okay.
The speed of light, you can't even get to the nearest star in less than 4 years, and that's if you're traveling the speed of light. So how on earth, no pun intended, would an extraterrestrial even get here from a star that actually has a civilization? It's like there's no way. It's like the speed of light and the vast distances of the universe are like a quarantine that would keep one
Yeah, the
civilization
radiation,
to another.
right?
Yeah, and radiation, it's very hazardous out there. The
Yeah,
the one
it's
possibility I
extreme.
hold out is that maybe any UFOs that have actually visited us could be robotic instead of living, because robotic
My assumption as
technology,
well. Yeah,
yeah, robotic technology, they
or
don't,
synthetic beings.
yeah,
Yeah,
No, I asked that because a lot of people, when it becomes on the religion side, that some people will say they don't believe it and they do believe it. I'm just like you; it's a possibility. I can believe it because it's a possibility. Is there? I don't know. I know, and this is the thing that I've learned a lot is that there's a lot of text about who God is and who Jesus Christ is. When it comes to aliens and extraterrestrials, there is no direct text that says they're out there. It's always, hey, this is what we interpret as what we think is extraterrestrials or aliens. But we know the Bible specifically, and even not just the Bible from what people consider the Bible, but from the beginning of the history of the Bible, it's been thousands of years.
mm,
And we know
yeah,
that
a long time.
it's been, that's a long time. Matter of fact, since the beginning of man, just depending on how you look at the history of the Bible. The Abrahamic faith started around 2000 BC. So that was around the Sumerian and Akkadian time frame. So that's the beginning of the writing system,
That's his
basically.
wheelhouse, by the way. He knows more about that area of history than
But that's what it
anybody I
is.
know of.
That's what it is. The Abrahamic faith started around 2000 BC. That's around the Sumerian and Akkadian time frame.
Yeah.
That's where they get the writing. They say technically the writing system first started. So the beginning of writing, there has always been an indication of God. There's always been an indication of a Messiah of some sort. The words may have not been used of what we use now because they didn't speak English 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. So
What?
they,
What? But
yeah, the
but
English ain't that
no,
long.
I mean there were no Americans back then. America, America.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying is that no matter what, there's
They didn't
always
have
been an
baseball back
indication.
then. What the heck?
But there's never been, as far as my studies, there's never been directly that says, hey, an alien came from Mars or extraterrestrial came from Jupiter or something like that. Now, has there been fitting text that says that? Yes. But
Yeah.
it's not older than what is the beginning of the writing system. And that's what scares me. And like you said, the possibility, until we get that possibility to flip to reality and 100%, no, we don't have to worry about any type thing. I don't think that changes anything about who God is, because even when I read even extraterrestrial books from, like, I believe it's like William Bramley, and I've just read so many different books from different UFO individuals from back in the 1940s and stuff on up, when this stuff was coming up, that they all say God, capital G with an OD, and Dolores Cannon says that a lot. So obviously there's one, right? And but the possibility of whatever is happening, that's the possibility. There's no, I right now at this point, there's no, we don't have to have to think that there's a possibility that there's a God out there. Like I said, since the beginning of writing system, man has been recording that, saying that in some kind of way or aspect. And I wanted to ask you,
he's revealed himself to us as soon as we were able to comprehend,
understand exactly, until we were able to understand who, like, it's almost like,
but understand what? That's the question. Like, what's the aptitude? I mean, what's the test? We have the SAT, students have the SAT at what age? At what age do we take the SAT test? So at what age of our spirituality do we take that test? And what understanding do we have to reach that pivotal moment to understand? I mean, how long? If you guys could understand what I'm trying to say,
yeah.
it's God and I've read some scriptures, God doesn't take a sweet time, you know. It's just that God is just waiting for everybody to come to him,
to get
you
ready,
know?
to he like
Yeah.
reveal it in an age appropriate manner to
But
us. Age
but
appropriate meaning the age of the human race.
yeah, but you see, I don't really take that too literal either. I actually look deeper into that in different layers. Like when I read the Bible, I look at, let's say for instance, God doesn't believe in time. Time is like relative. And
He's
there
outside
like
of time.
exactly. So we believe that time is real and that we travel around the sun, but for God, time is relative. Even the disciples knew that time was relative. They
Right.
understood that about God, about Jesus. And that's the other thing, that people that are saved and they were baptized, they understand that Jesus is God. But the
Mm.
people that don't know about that, they don't know that Jesus and God are one and the same. It's just God can't can't connect with people being God because God is way too big. It's like a massive energy.
That's what he needed, the physical form. That's what some
Yeah,
people
the
believe that
physical
he
form
need.
to connect with people. And in a cultural
Exactly.
aspect, that's why I got into anthropology, because people don't understand what it takes to connect with other cultures in such a mass amount of way. So Jesus was connecting with and it's not like, and there's people, we have had conversation with people saying that Jesus was in Japan, Jesus was in America, Jesus, and Jesus was all over the place. I'm like, gee whiz, this is incredible. And I don't know if that's true or if it's not true. It would be fantastical. It would be amazing. I don't deny it, or I don't say, oh no, it's not true. If it is, I mean, it doesn't hurt. But I mean, if Jesus
Yeah.
was all over the place, that's fantastic. I mean, Jesus was just
Yeah.
a
There are many who
positive
believe
force.
that. Yeah, many believe that Jesus made appearances in the Old Testament, like as Melchizedek, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to get to next, was Melchizedek, because you know
You
when
guys are
we talk
talking French now. All right, go
when
ahead.
you
Go
go
ahead.
to
Talk about
when
it.
you go to the Old
We all want to
Testament.
know what is this? What is all this?
No, seriously, this is actually interesting that you
Because the
said that.
viewers, I speak for the viewers. What the heck are you guys talking about?
No, it's interesting because there is I actually have an 1873 Bible here, originally from 1873. Talks about Melchizedek and how he was a high priest and all this other stuff, and intelligent. And then uh, some people might have relate Melchizedek to being Jesus, because that's what it is in the Old Testament. And like I said, I know that the letter J didn't come till about what, 1500 or something, somewhere around there. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Wait,
And
wait, my name wouldn't be well, I don't even tell people my real name.
yeah, what
But
they they don't.
I have a J. You see, you guys got a clue. I have a J in my name.
Yeah, they don't. It didn't come to a certain time frame. So, like I said before, each name,
So
because
wait, so Jesus it would be Jesus instead of Jesus?
In the
no,
Greek, yes.
yeah,
Oh, in the
Jesus, yeah.
Greek. Okay. I'm just trying to keep up. I mean, I am such
Uh-huh.
a simple-minded person, so
No,
bear with me.
No, you're
it's the
doing fine.
way the language adapted over time. That's why a lot of people don't say that Jesus was in the Old Testament. Um, there is some evidence out there that points to that. I wanted to hear what your thoughts was on that, on Melchizedek, because
I
that's
was gonna
exactly
say,
what I do.
hold on now. Jesus was everywhere in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, everywhere from the beginning and to the end. Am I not? Say amen? Amen. That's true. I'm not making fun of it. That's how I feel, man. I got chickens all over me, man. My hairs are raising up right now. I'm sorry. Oh man. Woo. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Talk.
Well, as far as Melchizedek is concerned, when Abraham entered the promised land, he encountered this priest and king named Melchizedek, and Abraham uh, gave him tithes and offerings to honor him. And then the guy just vanished. So Melchizedek, he just came out of nowhere, and then he received these tithes and offerings and was honored by Abraham, and then he went back into nowhere. It's like Tom Bombadil in The Lord of the Rings, that kind of thing, you know. And I think of Tom Bombadil as being like Melchizedek, by the way, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So a lot of Bible teachers think maybe Melchizedek was Jesus in the flesh, making an Old Testament appearance.
Mhm.
Quite
Yeah.
plausible, in my opinion.
You know, I've read enough to believe that it's possible that that Jesus and Melchizedek was one and the same, because I mean I've read it a lot. That's like something that comes up a lot. Even when people are not that educated or whoever even read the Bible, they'll bring up and say, well, Melchizedek was the same as Jesus. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I told you I'm really into mythology and I love history. I love religion, and all that. There are people. Well, let me ask you this: are you into mythology? Do you know a little bit about mythology, Egyptian,
A
Sumerian?
little bit, not
Okay.
I haven't gotten into it deeply. I just have some superficial knowledge of it.
Okay. Do you know who Thoth is? Hermes. Hermes. Um. Uh, what's his name? Oh man, I can't remember his name. It starts with the D. With a T. Hermes
Is it
tries,
the one that looks like an ibis?
but it's Thoth. His name is Thoth. He's an Egyptian god. Yeah, he has an ibis head, and sometimes like
Oh, I know who you're talking about. The
yeah.
ibis
So
head. Yeah.
okay, so you probably don't know this then, but there are some people out there who believe that Jesus and Thoth is one and the same, and I just wanted to see if you ever heard of that.
I'd never heard of that.
Yeah,
One thing I do know about Jesus is that regardless of mythology, Jesus was a historical figure.
yeah.
So that's the trump card right there.
Yeah, the trump card. No, I get what you're saying, because like I said, there's a lot of text out there already says that, and there's if anybody knows who Melchizedek, that's another piece of evidence. You have depictions of him from around the world. I mean, it's obvious that this whoever people would like to call him, or the individual, to make themselves feel good, the good that individual brought to this world was somewhere that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that as good as this individual was, the way they was basically just um ridiculed for everything that they did for humans. um do some people will say, why would this person or this individual, why would Jesus come back? What is your answer to that? I mean, have you ever heard that, like, why would Jesus come back if he went through what he went through?
Well, when the plan of the trajectory of Jesus's life and mission was established, it was not contingent on what would happen at point B, C, or D. It was all conceived of as one holistic plan in its entirety from A to Z. So just because he was crucified in the manner that he was, it never derailed the ultimate plan for him to return. In fact, the whole thing is an integrated plan, and it's going according to plan, and nothing can stop it.
Can deviate from it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That makes sense to me. Like I said, I just went through my questions. I don't have anything else unless you do live. I don't have anything else. Uh, like I said, I'm gonna get your book and I want to read it. And then, like I said, you could tell me now if you felt like this was a comfortable conversation, because I actually enjoyed it.
Oh, I really enjoyed this. I really
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna read it, and then I'll go over. Me and Live will go over it. We'll discuss it, and we'll come up with a plan for another discussion.
Excellent. I
Because
would love that.
I think what you're doing is great. I think what you did was great. Writing a book, your passion. I wrote my book because of passion.
Is there going to be another book? I mean, are you writing another book, or was there a sequel to it that you haven't finished quite yet?
Well, in theory, there could be a sequel because what I wrote is not exhaustive. But really, my goal was to teach people to think a certain way so that they could actually see patterns for themselves. And once they read my book and they see how the patterning works, they're good. They can find their own additional stuff.
You don't have long. You better start writing it. Let's go. You know, we only have so long on this earth.
Oh, I know that.
I mean, you write some wonderful stuff. I mean, bring out that sequel, you know, and
well, if it were,
leave
if I were
something
to write
for all of us to read.
If I were to write another book, it would probably be teasing out the implications of God being outside of time. So
that would be beautiful.
It would be
that'd be intense. Love that. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. You need to get on that right now, right after this conversation.
I will take that under advisement.
And you got technology to help you out. So
yeah, you got that technology in 2026 mind frame too. Yeah, definitely. I would. That might be the tipping point to getting more people to believe a lot more, because they could say, hey, because honestly, you gave some really good answers about extraterrestrials and your beliefs, and you said possible, and you didn't deviate, and you didn't try to say no, none of that. You gave an honest
I
feeling.
encourage you. I encourage you.
So I think that would be great. I think that would actually really be great.
Yeah,
with your life skills
don't
too.
Don't fall asleep on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I encourage you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to buy this one right here. I'm definitely going to buy it.
Fantastic. What a wonderful interview this has been. You're a wonderful human being.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
You know.
Got a little hype now. Can I let it die down? I remember days in the trench. Time to go hard in, time to go all in, time to get my all to this shit. Panamera maxed out, first class flights out Atlantic to Pacific, yeah, it's lit.